Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Mohamed. And in light of the ongoing efforts to stabilize Gaza and make the ceasefire, make a return to the ceasefire and strengthen Gaza's governance structures, Egypt has been at the forefront of diplomatic efforts to try and end the hostilities and facilitate the short, mid, and long-term solutions. We'll be discussing Gaza tonight, the Egyptian or the Arab reconstruction plan, also the initiatives to try and bring an end to the barbaric Israeli atrocities in the Gaza Strip and the resumption of the war on Gaza's civilians, and to try to get aid to reach Gaza, with Israel having blockaded all of that aid recently. That will be our main topic for tonight, and we are delighted to have with us in the studio a political analyst, Mr. Mohamed Salah. Very good evening to you, Mr. Salah.
Good evening, Mr.
Always
Mohamed.
a pleasure to have you with us, but allow us please, Mr. Salah, and your viewers first to read to you our top story of the night. As His Excellency the President received Sierra Leone's President Dr. Julius Maada Bio at Al Ittihadiyya Palace on Thursday. An official reception ceremony was held, including the playing of the national anthems and a review of the honor guard. The official spokesperson for the presidency stated that the meeting included bilateral talks and was followed by expanded discussions between the two countries' delegations. The two presidents also witnessed the signing of several memoranda of understanding between the two countries. Ambassador Mohamed al-Shinnawi, the official spokesman for the presidency, added that the two presidents held a press conference at the conclusion of the meetings, and during the press conference, President al-Sisi welcomed his Sierra Leone counterpart, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, to his second country, Egypt, and commended the historical fraternal relations between the two brotherly countries and peoples, which have crystallized into constructive cooperation since the 1960s. President al-Sisi highlighted the constructive bilateral discussions that reflected the shared will to enhance cooperation between the two countries and serve their aspirations to make optimal use of the capabilities of the two nations to serve the development interests of the two brotherly peoples. And during the talks, both sides agreed on the importance of enhancing cooperation and capacity building in various fields, especially in the areas of agriculture, irrigation, infrastructure, fisheries, and food security. And back to our main story for the night, as the ongoing Egyptian efforts continue. The diplomatic efforts by Egypt continue and try to have the ceasefire reinstalled with new initiatives and trying to get aid into Gaza, and trying to amass even more support for the Egyptian, or now the Arab plan, since it was adopted by the Arab Extraordinary Summit here in Cairo. We are in the company of political analyst Mr. Mohamed Salah, and as always, first a report. Let's watch a report about the main topic for tonight, as Egypt coordinates stances with Arab nations for recovery and reconstruction plan of the Gaza Strip and try to bring an end to the suffering of Palestinian people and to the war there.
Under the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration Badr Abdelati participated on March 12th alongside the foreign ministers of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Jordan, the Minister of State of the United Arab Emirates and the Secretary General of the Executive Committee of the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, in a meeting with U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Stephen Witkoff, in Doha, the Qatari capital. The meeting addressed developments in the Gaza Strip and the Arab Reconstruction Plan for Gaza, which was adopted by the Extraordinary Arab Summit in Cairo. The meeting in Qatar discussed the developments in the Gaza Strip and the region. The Arab foreign ministers presented the Gaza reconstruction plan, which was approved at the Arab summit held in Cairo on March 4, 2025. They also agreed with the US envoy to continue consultations and coordination on this plan as a basis for the reconstruction efforts in the sector. The Arab ministers emphasized the importance of establishing a ceasefire in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories, stressing the need for genuine efforts to achieve a just and comprehensive peace based on the two-state solution, ensuring the fulfillment of the Palestinian people's aspirations for freedom and independence. The Arab ministers reiterated their commitment to maintaining dialogue, to reinforce the ceasefire, and to work jointly to establish security, stability and peace in the region through intensified diplomatic efforts and coordination with various regional and international parties.
All right, welcome back, dear viewers. Many thanks to Manal Al-Iberi and Khalid Abdelbari for this report. We're back here with political analyst Mohamed Salah. Mr. Salah, before we talk about the Gaza reconstruction plan, and of course we know that Egypt is scheduled to host an international conference at the end of April, which will bring together key international donors, regional stakeholders and global financial institutions so as to go ahead with the plan aimed, of course, at reconstructing Gaza whilst Palestinians remain on their land without liquidating the case or having a forced or even any form of displacement of Palestinians. But before we get to that, the reconstruction plan, we must mention now that at the moment Israel has resumed the war. It has broken the Jan 19th deal, which was enforced by US President Donald Trump, and it has broken the deal seemingly with Mr. Trump's approval. And we're seeing now over 800, nearly 900 Palestinians, mostly civilians, mostly women and children, having died in the past 7, 8, 9 days or so. So how can we talk about reconstruction before bringing an end to the hostilities? And we know that there is an Egyptian plan, an Egyptian initiative. Egypt, the diplomatic efforts never cease, trying to bring an end to this and make the exchange happen and go to the second phase. What can you tell us about that latest Egyptian effort and initiative?
Well, first of all, let us start that we are now in a very ambiguous, stages about what's happening in the Middle East. No one of all the stakeholders on these issues, or who is taking part in the Middle East issues, know well what will happen tomorrow. We don't have a static or a strong diplomatic or military situation regarding the future of Gaza or the future of the Middle East in general. And I think this is the main obstacle that's facing the Egyptian plan or the Egyptian initiative regarding what's going on in Gaza. This is because the two main parts that are fighting together from 1.5 years, they do not have a strong desire or do not have a strong belief on giving or ending up this struggle with diplomatic situations. Both of them is looking for war as a way to enforce and the way to give them more power on the level of their lands and their people. They already have, or they gain support from their people from being a part of a struggle or a part of a war, and this is the main problem that's happening now.
But sorry to interrupt, Mr. Salah, but why put the two sides in one sentence. I mean, Hamas, for instance, has said that it did agree to the Jan 19th deal that was enforced by Mr. Trump, and it wants to go back to that deal that should eventually bring an end to the war, and that it will relinquish power in Gaza. It's Israel, the one side that refuses to end the war, seemingly because of Israeli Premier Netanyahu's position internally, because it's the best chance for him to stay in power and to avoid the corruption and other trials is to remain in.
I know that well.
To have the war.
But we have to get another look from the other side, which is that Israel has a prominent goal or a prominent target from this war, which is liquidating the Palestinian issues and transforming or the displacement for the Palestinian people from
that was the goal all the way.
This is the main goals of Israel. And now my goal, my mission now is to prevent them from achieving their goals. I do not have them to do these goals because they want to achieve all of these goals without war. So I have to prevent them from going back to war. What was happening from Hamas at the first stage of ceasefire treatment was very bad action, or very bad actions towards what we have said, what we have seen from the actions of those who are.
You're talking about the ceremonies that accompanied the handing over of hostages.
It was not a kind of, especially for one who have, when you are talking about, you are delivering a baby and a family among ceremonies of inspire and affair of good. This is not this give us the other a bad impression about the Hamas and its desire regarding the future. They are not saying that you want to be you will be back to ceasefire. No, these actions mean that you are preparing for another war. You are preparing to go back to do these actions again, and this has harmed a lot the Palestinian situation in this action. This harmed a lot about the ceasefire that's held by Egypt and United States of America and Qatar, and this gives us the reason to go back to war. All of these actions were ended by a direct situation or a direct negotiation between America and Hamas.
Of course, someone could answer you back by saying that Israel all along didn't want to go to phase 2. It just wanted to get as many hostages back as it could, and then resume the war again, because Netanyahu believes that by war,
the world knows that
he wants to negotiate under fire.
Yes, all of those knows that well. So what's my mission then? How to prevent Netanyahu from gaining these goals or achieving these goals? This will be from giving him or not giving him any reason to go back to war. You don't have to give him the reasons or the targets or what we are. So say that he will give what you are, will take what you do in your action in your life in order to prevent or to go back another one to the war again. And this is what's happening now. I'm not telling about that Netanyahu is peaceful leadership.
He's a war crime suspect. I mean.
Sure, are all about this. But at the same time, who will help me, who will serve my benefits from these actions or from this situation in general? I have to look for my benefits. I have to look for my situation. I have to look for the benefits of my people. The Palestinians in Gaza Strip.
You think now Hamas should accept the Egyptian initiative?
Should
the latest
not
initiative.
Only accept.
Talk to us about the details of that initiative.
Not only accept the Egyptian initiative, but also they have to give Egypt the full control of this negotiation in general. You have to listen well to Egypt. When Egypt is calling you to do something, we have the reasons of our situation, and we have the solutions for the problems that could happen in the future. If you are ready, or if you are ready to go away from these problems or not to go back to war, you have to listen carefully to what Egypt says.
Of course. There's a lot of diplomacy ongoing, a lot of movement, Egyptian delegation over to Qatar, Hamas delegation in Egypt. I mean, the movement, there's a lot of
movement. And this is because if you talk about Hamas in organizational way, you do not have one constant organization called Hamas. We have a lot of Hamas organizations in many countries that are talking about the benefits of other countries, not about the benefits of the Palestinian people. If you have a Hamas in Qatar, they are representing the benefits of Qatar. In Turkey, they are representing the benefits of Turkey. In Iran, they are representing
there are many
the benefits of Iran.
I mean, there are many in Gaza as well.
But about what's going on the Gaza Strip, about what's happening, about the Palestinians.
And Israel is assassinating them, by the way. I mean, in the past few days,
Israel is
we've
playing
seen a lot
well.
of assassinations.
Yes, they are playing well on these differentiations between the situations inside Hamas itself, not only outside Hamas, but inside Hamas. We have a lot of different situations regarding what's happening now.
But Hamas has already said that it agrees to the Egyptian plan of having an independent committee rule Gaza, and Hamas will be out of the picture.
Sure, but at the same time, if I'm really well have the strong desire to activate the Egyptian plan or the Egyptian initiative, I don't have any reason to go in a bilateral situation or a secret situation with America, or not instead of American again. I do not have to go or to announce that I'm adopting Iran's requests about what's happening in Gaza. All of these actions are not good, are not well. You are not now. You are not supporting the Egyptian situation. You are not supporting or not accepting the Egyptian initiative. And
of course,
this is
Egypt.
The main problem.
Of course, Egypt knows a lot. Egypt knows a lot.
Sure.
And what about that latest initiative? I believe there is a timetable. Egypt proposed a timetable for the release of hostages, of Israeli hostages detained by Hamas in Gaza, and for then, after that, to go back to phase 2. Is that more or less?
Well, let me say that Egypt have an historical role in the Palestinian issue in general, and have a static situation.
But Hamas wants to go back to the deal of Jan 19th.
I think the deal of Jan 19th is not applicable to be reapplied again. It has broken. It has ended from all the partners of this compromise.
Well, mainly
now,
Israel and the U.S. Mainly
Israel and U.S. in addition to Hamas. Because I'm sure that both sides of the conflicts, whether it's Hamas or Benjamin Netanyahu, do not have the strong desire to go to peace. They do not have the strong desire to end these actions with a peaceful situation or with a peaceful solution that will keep all of them, all of these benefits. If you are looking for peace in Israel, you will have peace. If you are looking for a Palestinian Authority or a Palestinian state, declaring the Palestinian state in Hamas, you will get your ideas, you will get your target with continuous negotiations, with speaking with each other, with conveying your message to the world, not only with military actions only. And this is what harmed the Palestinian issue in general.
But do you think Hamas is going to accept to let all of the hostages go for no price? I mean, for just the price of maybe having aid conditionally when Israel, and if Israel wants to trickle in, and then they will have lost all of their cards, because the only card they have now is
what are the cards that they have now? I'd like to say, what are the hostages do? What are they coming out? What comes out from the hostages at this moment?
Maybe they are.
Of
course, they might be very wrong, but maybe they are betting on the inner pressure from inside Israel to make Netanyahu to deviate.
The inner pressure in Israel is not calling for regaining hostages only. They have a lot of problems, and they have a lot of situation which is really complicated in the inside of Israel. And they have a lot of problems, and they have a lot of conflicts inside Israel itself, whether in the cultural level, whether in the political level.
Well, maybe this is the Hamas bit.
I think it's not quit, because about the hostages and about regaining Gaza, or having Gaza and having other lands, or acquiring other lands, or achieving great Israel philosophy. These ideas are old, are accepted from all the Israelis. What is the problem inside Israel now? They are calling for to regain hostages and continue war again.
No, many inside Israel are now calling for the end of the war.
I don't think they are the popularity. You know, we might say
the
that
majority. You don't
the
think they are
majority.
the majority. But some opinion polls said that they now are becoming the majority.
I hope so. But I don't think.
But even if this is the case, and even if they think that Netanyahu has gone too far and is now entre parenthèses a dictator and using everybody and exceeding his powers with the
sure about the problems, because we have a military the military leaderships in Israel are not with the war, because they know well that the end of this war will end with a big problem for them, which is facing Egypt. And they know well that they are not able to do this at the same time, or at this moment. So military leaders in Israel are looking well for the end of these actions. If you continued in liquidating the Palestinian issue, if you continued in pressing or doing more pressure on the Palestinian people to leave from Gaza to any other place in the world, you will finally be faced by the Egyptian army. And now the peace between Egypt and Israel will be in a problem, and they do not have the ability to face Egypt now. This is the problem, or this is why the military leaders in Israel are not supporting Netanyahu in this war. Not because they are.
That's an important point you mentioned.
Not because they are looking forward peace, or not because they love the Palestinian people. No, but they know well that Egypt will not be the same if they continued on this in these actions, or on this situation, or pressing or doing more pressure on Palestinians to go towards Sinai. You will have a very strong and a very big reaction from the Egyptian army in the other side.
And that's not, of course, the case, for instance, elsewhere in the region, because it seems Israel doesn't respect anybody. I mean, it doesn't respect Syrian territories, it doesn't respect Lebanese territories.
Israel respects strong people. Israel respects a strong state. Israel respects strong army. This is the only way they respect. So I'd like to say that for our Egyptians, I have to know well that we are in a very sensitive period of time in the history of the Middle East in general. And we have to know well that we have to stand hand in hand with each other. We have to support our leaders. We have to support our President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. We have to support our Egyptian leaders, because this is a very important and a very sensitive way, or a sensitive period of time in the Middle East.
Indeed. Mr. Salah, let's go back to the reconstruction plan. Egypt is scheduled to host and of course we hope that by then we would have reached a ceasefire, so we can start with this. So Egypt is scheduled to host the international conference at the end of April on this. Both Egypt and Jordan are actively working on training Palestinian police personnel in preparation for their eventual deployment in the territory. There is a plan, of course, for an independent committee, not affiliated to Hamas, not affiliated to Fatah, an independent committee, Palestinian, of course, committee.
Civilian leadership in Gaza after the war. And this is very good. And this will help you to end up this struggle. This will prevent Benjamin Netanyahu and who is supporting Benjamin Netanyahu from continuing on this war. Because what's coming in Gaza will be a civil government or a civil administration that will be able, or their main concern will be the benefits of the Palestinian people, not other peoples. They will not play as a member or as a deputy of others, of other situations or other.
Understood.
بالضبط.
But does this Netanyahu really? I mean, is it just about Hamas? I mean, he has said no Hamasistan, no Fathistan. He believes that even Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is a bad man. So,
this is Benjamin Netanyahu is representing the mentality of all the radicalists in the world. In this radical government in Israel that's going on, they have many basic ideas that they are working on. The first is, I am the only one who is going or who is doing for peace. The others are evil. I am representing God, God ways in the land. The others are evil, and this is one of the main ideas of this mentality.
Right wing, extreme, fascist, you name
exactly,
it.
Exactly. This is what are they going. The second is, if I got another land, or if I am a part of a certain battle or a certain struggle that has no end, like the Arab-Israeli conflict, I will have the ability to sustain or to continue on the top of the government in Israel, because I'm now, if you are not supporting me, you are not supporting Israel, and this is the way of extremists. If you have a struggle between two parts or two sides, or both of them are extremists, like what's happening now, it's not easy to reach peace.
It's amazing because Netanyahu hasn't been known for to have a religious ideology, but he's siding himself with those extreme,
I know,
Orthodox right-wing who believe they are, as you mentioned, who claim to be representing God's will.
Because this is the card which will...
the Jewish state.
No, this is the card. Yes, this is the card. Religious ideas are the cards who will give him the opportunity to achieve his goal. At the very early beginning of this government, they have declared that they have three main ideas to do. Who are these three ideas? The first is finalizing the Palestinian issue and liquidating the Palestinian issue and transforming Palestinian from the West Bank to Jordan and from Gaza to Sinai. And
they are doing their share of terrorism in the West Bank and war crimes in the West Bank.
Yes, it is what they happen. The second happen that have been declared by Benjamin Netanyahu at the very early beginning of his program on this government was declaring or acquiring more Arab nations in Ibrahim Accords or Ibrahim agreements. All of these ideas couldn't achieve without war. You won't have any state in the Middle East that accepts what you are going on or what you are looking for without war.
Mr. Salah, that at the time when Israel has resumed the war on Gaza and trying to make settlements in the West Bank legal and evacuating Palestinians and displacing Palestinians
not only in the West Bank,
the Americans,
but in South Syria also,
and in South Syria, the Americans are now talking about, well, we're going to get Lebanon to sign a peace accord with Israel. We're perhaps going to get Syria to sign a peace accord with Israel. This is amazing. Or perhaps the Saudis, although that's the American position, although they know, and Saudi Arabia has said, no peace deal unless there is a solving for the problem of Gaza and an independent and viable Palestinian state. The two-state solution, the just and lasting peace.
It's a very simple thing to say. If you want to have peace between two countries, you have to define the two countries well. You have to say Israel is the land from so and so. what are the borders of Israel, what are the constitution of Israel. If you want peace to be here in the Middle East, you have to know well that the peace will be between a nation and a nation, from administration and administration. And all of this peace won't be had without we have a definition to the Israeli state. Who are this state? Who are the components of this state? Which is this state for Jewish only, or for all types and for all people that are having or living on Israel, such as Muslims and Christians? Are there Israeli people also or not? You have to answer what are the borders of Israel, from the north, from the south, from the east, from the west. What are the borders of this state? If you give me these answers, reaching a peace will not be so hard. Reaching a peace, it will be very easy in order to achieve to reach any problem, or solving any problems will be achievable at this moment. Because you won't have this strong or this continuous struggle that's happening every 2 or 3 years between Israel and
You know,
others.
Mr. Salah, you've touched on a very, very, very important point, and you reminded me now, when you were talking about Israel's borders, of the question that the famous media personality and podcaster Tucker Carlson asked U.S. presidential envoy Steve Witkoff in his podcast maybe a week or 2 weeks ago or something like that, when he said, where are Israel's borders? I was very eager and concentrated really to get an answer from Mr. Witkoff, and he was asked whether he knows whether Mr. Carlson asked Mr. Witkoff whether he knows where are Israel's borders supposed to end. And he really evaded the question very brilliantly, and he never answered. So he didn't have an answer. Mr. Witkoff doesn't have an answer to where Israel's borders end. But we here in Egypt and across the Middle East must believe or think that Netanyahu and his right-wing fanatics are thinking about the so-called Greater Israel. That's what we have to believe. Everything on the ground now tells us that he's thinking about the so-called
and this is the main
Greater
problems of what's happening now. We are not in a
and by the way, there are no also very strict borders to Greater Israel.
Sure,
by the way.
sure, but
the so-called Greater Israel.
We are not in a problem with the Israeli people itself. We do not have a problem with Jewish people. They are like any other people that we are dealing with and we have to interact with. We have to know them well.
We saw how many Jews oppose what's happening. We saw the Jews in America and Jews elsewhere in the world opposing the war and opposing.
Sure, you don't have a clear borders. That means if when I have a problem in my land, you will go inside my land and take 2 or 3 governors and say that this is my historical land and I have the right to be here, and this is my land. So we have to know that.
So we could have a Nakba in Syria, a Nakba in Lebanon, a Nakba, yeah.
Sure, national security in Israelis have to know well that you will not have peace in the Middle East without leaving these actions, without saying that, believing that any country in the Middle East or outside the Middle East have a well-known borders. They have to.
It's amazing that the Americans didn't know the answer.
Because the Americans don't have a real problem regarding Israel. And let me say that American administrations are taking this from a human perspective. They are
so-called, yeah.
So-called what's called human perspective, because they are saying that Israel is a small country in the Middle East. Israel is surrounded with billions of Muslims and the billions of people who are hating them. This is what they are calling, what are marketing, supporting Israeli strategies for the inside of America. And this is the importance of the important rule of TikTok on this war. TikTok, what have happened? He gave the American people another way to know another side of what's happening in the Middle East. The American now know well that Israel is not that weak country. They are not rounded with billions of.
Yeah, exactly. I think what happened in the last year and a half and the killing of tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians,
sure,
mostly women and children, just proved that.
And this is one of the most problems that are facing the American administration now, is that they couldn't telling more lies for the Americans inside.
All right. It really proved, according to many, that this is state-sponsored terrorism. I mean, what has been happening in Gaza? This is Israeli state-sponsored terrorism.
There is no war crime in the history of the humanity in general wasn't done in Gaza. We have a lot of crimes that have been done in Gaza.
It's very sad
any person should be ashamed
of silence,
silence, and keeping these actions continued again.
Mr. Mohamed Salah, political analyst, always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Me too, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you, dear viewers, for watching the daily debate. We will leave you now with the second and final report here in the program, and it is about Egypt hosting meetings of the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee on Gaza. Please stay with Nile TV.
Egypt hosted meetings of the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee on Gaza with EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallis. The meeting included the foreign ministers of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Palestine, Qatar, Egypt, Bahrain, Turkey and Indonesia, along with the United Arab Emirates Minister of State, the Secretary General of the Arab League and the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. The meeting discussed the latest developments in the occupied Palestinian territories. The parties expressed deep concern over the collapse of the ceasefire in Gaza and the resulting civilian casualties from recent airstrikes. They condemned the resumption of hostilities and attacks on civilians and infrastructure, calling for the immediate reinstatement of the ceasefire and the release of all hostages and detainees. They emphasized the need to advance to the second phase of the January 19th agreement, brokered by Egypt, Qatar and the United States, aiming for a permanent cessation of hostilities, the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza and compliance with UN Security Council Resolution 2735. The committee underscored the importance of full adherence to international humanitarian and legal principles, including the swift, sustained and unhindered delivery of humanitarian aid to all areas of Gaza. They called for lifting all restrictions, impeding aid access and restoring essential services such as electricity and water desalination without delay. The ministers welcomed the Arab Recovery and Reconstruction Plan, presented at the Cairo summit on March 4th, subsequently endorsed by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and acknowledged by the European Council. They stressed that this plan ensures Palestinians remain on their land and firmly rejected any forced displacement from Gaza or the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. They warned of the grave consequences of any such actions. The parties emphasized the importance of supporting the upcoming Early Recovery and Reconstruction Conference for Gaza, set to be held in Cairo with the participation of key stakeholders. They urged the international community to mobilize resources during the conference to address humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. The meeting reaffirmed the necessity of reunifying Gaza and the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority and supporting its full governance over both territories. The ministers also stressed the need to safeguard the territorial integrity of the occupied Palestinian territories, viewing this as a fundamental step toward establishing a Palestinian state along the June 4, 1967 borders in accordance with UN resolutions and the two-state solution framework. Reiterating that Gaza is an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territories since 1967, the ministers underscored the necessity of ensuring that any discussions on Gaza's future align with international law and relevant UN Security Council resolutions. The committee expressed grave concern over Israeli military incursions in the occupied West Bank, as well as illegal settlement expansion, home demolitions, and settler violence, which undermine Palestinian rights, jeopardize prospects for a just and lasting peace, and deepen the conflict. They reaffirmed that Israel, as the occupying power, must protect civilians and adhere to international humanitarian law. The ministers also categorically rejected any attempts to annex territory or alter the legal and historical status quo of Jerusalem's holy sites. The participants reiterated their full commitment to a political resolution based on the two-state solution, ensuring that Israel and Palestine coexist peacefully in line with UN resolutions, the Madrid principles, including Land for Peace and the Arab Peace Initiative. They also reaffirmed their commitment to holding a high-level international conference in June in New York, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia under UN auspices to advance these objectives.